Hey, good morning, BNI, Avon Gonzalez, Digital Harvest, Education Coordinator. Today it's story time with Avi. This is the BNI book. This is what you get when you join BNI. It's the Giver's Gain book. It's actually like the history of BNI, which is really interesting because I'm going to read to you a very short passage here that actually explains where the visitor host position came from with the chapter. It's actually one of the most important pieces of our chapter, and with our Visitors Day approaching, we're gearing up for that. We're continuing this education around visitors. I want to read this to you because I think it's important before we start talking about some of the other things that Mike and I are going to get into in the next few weeks. So, here's one more example of how great ideas can surprise you and make you wonder, why didn't I think of that? This is Ivan Meisner speaking, the founder of BNI. Sometime in our second year, a woman called the main office and asked about joining BNI. I named a nearby chapter and suggested that she visit. About 3 weeks later, I happened to bump into this woman at a Chamber of Commerce mixer. I asked her if she had joined BNI. She said she had, but named a different chapter. I asked her why she had not joined the first, which was not only closer to where she lived and worked, but it was larger and passed a lot more referrals every month. She said, I visited that chapter, but I didn't feel like I belonged there. I walked in, I looked around, and wasn't quite sure what to do. They took my money for breakfast, of course, but after that, nobody spoke to me. They all seemed to like each other a lot, but nobody reached out to me. I felt as though I were interrupting other people's conversations. Finally, the president started the meeting and I sat down and watched. When it was over, everybody got up and went back to their groups and still nobody spoke to me. So I left. Somehow that didn't feel right to me, so I decided to try one other chapter. This time, when I walked through the door, there was a woman standing there who shook my hand and thanked me for coming to visit her chapter. She gave me a little paper badge with my name on it. She introduced me to several members and they thanked me for coming and asked me about my business. When the meeting was over, the woman who had greeted me thanked me again for visiting and asked if I had any questions. I said I was interested. She sat down with me and explained how BNI works. Then she invited me to join. I joined them without even thinking twice. I felt like I was really welcome there. I know it's a smaller chapter than the one that you steered me to, but I'd like to make a prediction. I predict that within a year, the chapter I joined will be bigger and better than the first one that I visited. Not long after that, I paid a surprise visit to the women's chapter, and sure enough, I was greeted at the door by a person wearing a badge that said Visitor Host. I learned that the idea had come from a member who had seen it used at another organization he was active in. It was such an obviously great idea that before long we were having every BNI chapter designate a visitor host and making it a part of our training. The woman's prediction? Yes, it came true. Within the year, her chapter had pulled ahead in membership and referrals. So I think this is just something, I love the history of how BNI came to be and all the things that we take advantage of with the system that Meisner set up. It's all engineered to create our success, right? As we get closer to our Visitors Day, I want to make sure that all of us, even if we're not the visitor host at the door signing people in, that we make sure that we welcome and encourage new people. If there's a face that's here that you don't recognize, and especially if there's nobody already talking to them, it is your job to go out and make them feel welcome, right? This is a great group. This is the community that welcomed all of us in. It's like a family. We want to make sure that we show that and we put our best foot forward when we do have visitors coming. So that's it for education today. Even though the visitor host takes care of that brand new person walking through the door, it's all of our jobs to really welcome new people, especially if we would like them to join and grow our chapter. So thank you.